Thanks, sir. That is very good.
Chris Duffin at Elite Performance Center. I'm sitting here with Joe Daniels of, and I'm going to see if I can get this right, Swing This Kettlebell and Strength.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So, sitting down, we've been sitting here chatting a little bit this morning, and I think the most important thing to note is you and I do some things very similar, which is get jacked before interviews. So we got the Crazy Eyes on, which we've done so far already. So, hit a little Jack 3D, pre-interview warm-up.
Yep.
But we're planning on doing some training after this, and I think that makes sense, right?
Yep.
All right. We had a lot of good discussions, and we just thought we'd put the camera on and capture a little bit and share, because it's some pretty interesting stuff. Joe and I have kind of similar backgrounds, but we're doing different things. Joe's focused on kettlebells. I've continued to stick with string sports, but he got into it for some shoulder issues. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I first got into it, I was doing bodybuilding, NPC stuff, and kept noticing my right shoulder. Basically, I was having rotator cuff issues, trying to go more volume, more heavier on barbell, and I was like, the path just didn't seem very correct to my right shoulder, no matter what I did. Never had any issues with the left, so started working on getting some massage, really started getting into neuromuscular massage and stuff, and some different types of, worked through a couple of different therapists. I found one that showed me a book. It was a trigger point therapy guide and basically self-help, So because I couldn't afford $60 massage every couple days when this would trigger, because I didn't want to stop training, right? I mean, who in their right mind wants to just to give up what they love? So my opinion's always been, you got to find a solution to the problem instead of putting a Band-Aid on the problem. So I started reading that book, got a couple, basically I carry around with me all the time, something of the sort to work on my issues. And I kept feeling better, and I found I was just a bit, not necessarily a torn infraspinatus, but probably just a super, super spasmed up infraspinatus, and I worked on that for a couple weeks, and it felt great. Started lifting again, and it would come and go, and I was like, let me look into something else. So, like, what are their other tools? And then kettlebell kept popping up. It was like, so I saw some stuff from Stuart McGill and some other people that were talking about, well, this is a good thing. Like, okay, well, it's little weights. I didn't know much. This is probably 2006 or something like that. So I ended up getting one probably in 2008, playing around, and I couldn't believe, I've always been in like stabilization. Like I like to train, whether it was back then for physique, for aesthetics, or whatever, or getting girls, or whatever, or bodybuilding, or whatever.
I think that's how we all got into it to begin with, let's be honest.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and I was like, it was just winding me, killing me. I'm like, I thought I was in good shape. But like, training for stabilization of the joints, I wanted to be able to live my life. I've always been an avid mountain biker. I always like go out and hike, and I like just go out and play, live my life. I didn't want to just be in the gym,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I was in the culture, immersed inside. I just didn't really like the feeling of it. That's not what I lived all day. I went to the gym, I did my thing, and I got out and I played.
I think that's the interesting discussion point, is that, and that's the way I teach. What I focus on is, if we can do this and get stronger and maintain positions, learn when to be hard, when to be soft, these things actually help you function better in life.
Yep.
And that's a profound thing to understand. There's so much in our sports, I guess, or wherever, where it's like the old school mentality of you got to push through the pain. Mm-hmm. And absolutely, if you want to make gains and then push your body, you're going to push yourself, but you shouldn't be pushing into pain or working through it or any of this stuff. You've got to figure out something isn't right, and you've got to work through it. And it was funny, we're talking about, you're doing kettlebells, I'm doing, powerlifting, but it's really all the same stuff. I get this question all the time, like, I'll spend like 4 hours explaining, here's breathing, here's stabilization, here's how we transfer power through the hips into the shoulders, and we'll go through it, and like, this applies to basic human loaded movement, and somebody will raise their hand and go, does this apply to high bar squats? I'm like,
It's still moving. It's still loaded.
Exactly. It applies to yoke walks. It applies to kettlebell swings. It applies
Yoga.
to deadlifts. So on. I mean, it's it's a lot of people don't know how the body's supposed to work, and a lot of natural athletes do it, and they just do it great, and they may not even know what they do. Some of them, for that reason, aren't necessarily the greatest coaches because they don't know how to describe and tell you, well, the squats just go up and go down.
Right, they do it. Right.
Well,
It's
so
ingrained in them. They've never had, maybe when they were growing up, they never fell off the monkey bars and had an injury that compensated one side. Maybe they just never had those, everything was right. And that happens. But it's like, if I want to get through that wall, I think the shortest way is through that wall. But if I can't get through it, each time that I get through it, and all of a sudden I realize there's a door there, I'm going to be the one that's going to open that door and walk around.
Yep.
But a lot of people just keep hitting that wall and keep hitting that wall. A, because I think it sells, it's flashy, it's a pow, it's like, look how beat up I am. Like, I don't like that because hopefully, how old are you?
38.
Okay, I'm 35. So we're all in the same boat, right? We've been doing this stuff for a long time. We work with people, but we all want to be 70 and doing stuff. Hopefully, but we want a quality of life, right?
Absolutely.
As soon because I see people that are so good at what they do for a short span, and when they're done through maybe injuries or something that's done or took care of or found the root of the problem, then when they're done. What happens? It's here. It's depression. It's all sorts of stuff. It's I'm not done. Like I have kids, but I don't do anything with them. Like you got a little one. I got a little one. There's fun stuff to be had. There's more things to teach. We can. It's,
and it takes time. It was really. I thought it was interesting this week because I observe a lot of young lifters. Who's going to be the next greatest thing and so on. And it's like sometimes people try to go at it too fast, I think. Mm-hmm. And I actually learned there is some science behind that this weekend. Stuart McGill was walking through actually some of the adaptations that happen within the spine and other things to powerlifters. And he mentioned that, he's seeing a lot of people like the younger girls that are, you got to be a 2 times body weight deadlifter. And they're going after that their first year of training and they're pushing hard. And they haven't had these adaptations that take so long to accumulate because we're actually remodeling how the body works to support this, which does make you stronger.
Yep. But think about what have they been doing? They're starting in a place where they've been sitting in a desk for how many years? Mm-hmm. A lot. And maybe we're going off the subject here, but how much little activity young people actually get? They're doing more studying. There's more homework. There's this, and they don't have time for it, or they're just not as active.
But that's exactly the imperative reason that people learn this. And I don't care whether it's Olympic lifting, powerlifting, kettlebell sport, or wherever. But all these things have some really commonalities, which is core stabilization, hip hinge, plugging this in.
Keeping your spine safe.
And then, again, what we talked about, like with the kettlebell swing or the shoulder rock swing, is that pulsing. When you soft, when you off. A fighter, they're loose, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, like all these same things. It transitions because that's how we're supposed to be able to operate. And all this time sitting, playing video games, being plugged in.
Texting is the worst. Like, I found myself the other day, obviously we're up here for business. My primary business. This is awesome. Talking, networking with, by the way, thank you very much. It's awesome. But just to see people that are walking down the street about to get hit by a car or hit by other people, walking right into other people, because I'm just walking my line on the right side. They're not even paying attention because they're paying attention to that screen that's here. Their awareness their mindfulness to everything is just gone. It's gone.
And there's some funny things that actually happen too. Like Mark Bell was showing me how Kelly Starrett had taught him power texting position, to help with, positioning, posture while you're doing that. I'm like, yeah, but it still doesn't fix some of the neurological things that happen. That when we've got that, there's a lot of studies on the stimulus, be it looking at a computer screen or any of that stuff, our breathing patterns start changing. We stop breathing here, and we start breathing.
Sympathetic nervous system.
We start breathing vertically instead of horizontally. Boom. Mm-hmm. And then this all starts tightening up. It doesn't matter what position you hold. So this stuff starts happening. And then once you have the break here, Then we lose how to
Yeah.
stabilize this.
Yeah.
Then we start ending up with issues, okay, we start ending up with hip mobility issues, glute deactivation, spinal injuries. Interesting note, do you know what the number one, I could just give you a hint, healthcare cost in America is? Heart disease,
is it low
cancer. It is low back
pain. Is it low back pain? How did I guess? It's everywhere.
Exactly.
Well, just think about how much Aleve sold. It's like people wake up and they're taking every day. And that's their habit now. They might not even have it. Maybe their back's gone, but they have a habit of taking something, all the time. But that's what I love to talk about, like the parasympathetic nervous system, sympathetic. If we're always in our desk or doing something, say we both love what we do, but like you said, you upgraded. Now there's something new that you have to learn. Like we're getting it all set up, and sound engineer and thanks, Alex. But we got that stuff. So there's even more. People think that's not a stress. It is a stress. It's something
Absolutely.
that have to be perfect so the viewer can learn from us or stay retained to our information.
Yeah.
But so then we're okay, man. We're not focusing. My scalenes are getting crazy. My SEM is like jacked up now. So now when I go to squat, it's like this. I'm biting down and everything's crazy. I've got crazy eyes now. I feel them. Feel them.
Kicking in.
Yeah.
But
But
Jack 3D always does the trick.
also, we're not. So weird. I think bodybuilding training has done a lot for people to control muscles, but they're so used to do that single joint stuff, and it's not a movement.
Yep.
So maybe you learn that way, then you go into say powerlifting or kettlebell, anything else, and it's just disjointed, jerky. You're not in touch with your body. You might be in touch with that guy there.
I challenge people that train this way to do an experiment, and I actually started practicing it from my friend, IFBB Pro, Stan Efforting, if you know who he is. He did a transition.
Pretty strong.
He's pretty strong, right? And he's got this, amazing strength. Year round, he's got six-pack abs, but his waist is still 40 inches. It's massive structure.
Both
you know how much ab work?
have
You know how much ab work he does? None.
None.
You know how much ab work he has his clients do? None.
I wouldn't think any.
None. And all his clients are physique or bodybuilding competitors. Do you know what he has them do?
Eat well, calm down.
Yes. But also, when they're doing their bodybuilder movements, be it triceps, curls, whatever, he has them brace the core and hold it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing something, sitting on a preacher bench here or wherever, and you're getting leg extensions, we're picking classic bodybuilder.
Right.
Actually, I've got a little corner of the gym called Fluff Corner, where we've got some of this equipment set up.
Before you go out on dates and stuff, you can curl it up, press them.
Get the look good. But you get towards failure with those, and you're starting, the reps are getting hard, brace your core. And all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, this is a lot easier. You should be doing that the whole damn time.
Right.
And that way you don't lose the disconnect.
Right.
Because we are a system, and that's what people forget. We function as a system, and you need to train as a system.
Yep.
And you actually can do those bodybuilder movements. Lots of people love to diss on machines. But I
don't have machines in my place, but I don't think there's stuff wrong. I think that's the only thing that you're doing. Just like the only thing, if I only did kettlebell training, I wouldn't be as strong as I am. I wouldn't have, if I was only doing kettlebell training, I wouldn't have the mobility that I'm doing, like the body weight type stuff. It's the same thing. That's why I love to see powerlifters that are moving into doing more stuff like bands. It changes a lot, the force velocity, all that stuff, it changes. We're getting used to that. If we train the same path all the time, there's not much.
Absolutely.
We're going to get injured.
Yep. And you don't need those things, but they're not bad. It's all dependent on how you use them. I mean, the context is everything.
I think the body's very similar. Maybe I've read too many massage books, but we're just like a train. If you have 5 engines pulling this train, you're the train, right? And all of a sudden, we're using one of them at 100%, and the other guys are just hanging out. Why don't we use 5 of them at 20%?
Exactly.
And how efficient is it? How much are we wearing out of those engines? Pretty soon, if we're using that one engine, we're down. And now we have 80% left, which is the new 100. I'm not really good at math. Tell me if I'm lost. But you know what I mean? Now they're doing 25% of the work. And then we cut off that. We want to use them together.
And that's how you need to train. And that's we talked about this earlier. It's like you want to practice perfection at all times, right? And all the things that we're talking about, from pulsing the hard and the soft, and that neural firing and, clean with movement. We got braced with how we transferring power. We want to practice that. I was telling you about my workout last night, right? Mm-hmm. It was heavy squat day, and I went to a pretty damn heavy weight, but not all the way. And I hit 5 doubles. I love 5 doubles. Shout out to Donnie Thompson. Does the same thing. It's just a thing we've followed on through the years because it works. Mm-hmm. And why does it work? Because instead of hitting like a heavy triple, and my second and third rep look like crap, and they're grinders, and I'm teaching my body the wrong thing to do.
When you're tired, you're teaching your body to do that position.
And I'm not saying I don't do that. I do it. But it's when I'm doing a test, not when I'm wanting to train.
Not the practice,
yeah.
Right. You practice for what the test is going to be.
Exactly.
You don't test for the test.
So my workout consists of, it's heavy enough, everything's got to be right. I've got to fire, I've got to brace, I've got to think through all my cues, okay, I'm ready. I step to the bar. And if I don't do those things, the weight's going to kill me. It's heavy enough that it does that.
Sure.
But it's clearly not maximal because I hit 5 doubles. Mm-hmm. And so by the end, I got 10 beautiful reps. Mm-hmm. Now, if it was a heavy workout pushing it, I would have had maybe 9 of 10. Still 90%, mm-hmm. I'm right where I want to be. So I'm using the same concepts there. Mm-hmm. And with the shoulder rock swing, constantly all the time, I'm like, you want to practice to be better. We don't use it as a conditioning tool and go to fatigue failure. We don't load it to the maximum weight. Yeah, we progress
or
it.
as a challenge to see if you can do it.
Yep.
Let's try to do 200 of them. Just keep going. I don't like that.
No, you get sloppy, you get out, and
then you get hurt at some point.
And
you're
you're encoding the wrong ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important for people to really ingrain that practice. That's what we need. That's what we're doing. We're not,
They practice. You're right. Practice for anything. Like I know a lot of people at my place. I can just see him like, really, he's going to talk to me again about this. I know what you're going to say, and then I say, no, you don't know what I'm saying because I wouldn't have to say it. But I don't want to feel like a jerk. But at some point, you can't just be like softly. I don't yell. I'm not a yelling coach. I just when I had coaches that would yell at me all the time, like, all right, dude, cool, see you later. There's other ways you can get to me. Everyone's different. You know what I mean? So I have people that respond a little bit to harsher language. I have people that respond to maybe sending them a little chart or something that I saw while I was out walking on, and send it to them on a text message. There's just so many people, and I think that's like we were talking about doing certain. You're good at seeing people do the squat. You don't need to do much. You see the squat because you're just good at it. You tell them what's on, what's off, and what needs to be brought up and what needs to be toned down and stuff because you can see it.
Exactly.
Experience.
Yeah. So that was a good discussion. I think it's like I think that's a part where
it's a discussion we should have taped, right?
We should have. But it's there's so much education out there for trainers and clinicians and the like on how to do these different assessments to figure out what's going on with the body and how do we correct it. And I think they're fabulous. I've been trained in a bunch of this. I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars learning this stuff, right? Going to some of the best people out there learning this stuff. And I don't use it. I mean, I use it. It's there. But at the same time, like, I do a sport. And within that sport, I should be able to recognize when somebody's squatting, I should know to be able to go, hey, that glute isn't firing. Maybe this oblique here's not working. Mm-hmm. Look, they've got some lat engagement issues. Oh, they've got shoulder mobility.
Yep.
I don't need to have them do an overhead squat
you can
to
see
assess
it while it's happening.
Shoulder mobility on a squat. I can see it.
It's real time.
So, and so I'm not discrediting the value of those because they are important. But when you've got a dedicated sport, like if you're doing kettlebell sport, I'm sure that you could see a lot of things going on within kettlebells. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to support the production of further content and maximize your athletic performance, check out kabukistrength.net. Our goal is to provide you with the tools and the methods to maximize your performance. There's constantly adding new products to our site, so please check it out. All that's left is for you to bring the attitude.